the move 10 steps motion block works fine, and I can move him right and then I can make it into -10 to move him left. However, if I want to be a bit more precise, there's a better option. If you look very, very carefully down at the bottom, when I press right, the X value here for the sprite's location changes by 10. So that happens every time I press right arrow because 10 steps is increasing the X value by 10. Equally then, if I decided to make this into -10, every time I press the left arrow, the value is decreasing by 10. That's because, as we know, Scratch is on an XY grid. Like that. So, then I can be a bit more precise with my movements. If I go a bit further down the motion blocks, you'll find that I've got blocks that say change X by. So these are to change the X value by 10. So now when I press the right arrow, I'm changing the X value by 10. Similarly, I could use exactly the same block and change it to -10. Now, on the face of it, this does exactly the same as move 10 blocks or move 10 steps, but it also gives me greater control because the 10 blocks does whatever direction I'm facing in, the sprite will move in. This time, no matter which way the sprite is facing, I could have him facing the other way around. Whichever way he's looking, he will always still be moving right when I press right and left when I press left. For games and things like that, that would be really useful. It also gives me a little bit more precision and accuracy. The other great benefit as well is if I go a little bit further down, there is a command that says change Y by. So again, if I take my command for up, so an up arrow, change Y by 10, I can move my sprite up the screen. Similarly, I could create the same kind of command to make him go down the screen by using change Y by -10. So I can now move my sprite, change Y by 10, and then adjust it and edit it into -10. I can now move my sprite up and down and around the screen using the key presses. Using the X and Y values gives me a little bit more control and a little bit more precision. Another option as well is I can use the go to. Now, before I looked at go to random position, this time I can look at, as a really precise value, I can say exactly where I want them to go to on that screen. So I could put my event on, and I could have spacebar, and I could say go to 5490 when I press the spacebar, and Sprite will teleport to that location. This is really useful if a child gets a sprite who runs off the screen and disappears, because you could just quickly write this code and put 00, and it takes your sprite back to the middle of the screen. Final command that's worth looking at in the motion blocks is the glide function. So rather than go to, where he immediately jumps to that location, I can look at glide. Exactly the same thing. It will move me to a location. So I'm going to pick my coordinate of, 5798. But instead of teleporting there instantly, this time the sprite will glide there and slide their movement. Now, if I increase the time there, so I say 5 seconds to 00, sprite will move slower and slide across the room. That's more useful if we're looking towards animation and you don't want the sprite just warping all over the place. So the movement blocks are really powerful. The move 10 steps works, and if you're good with the direction, it works, but can get confusing quickly. If you're happy using the X and Y values, you can be a lot more precise, especially when you factor in that these are all editable values because they're white circles. So you can make an exact precise value in a precise direction and move it in any direction.